Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We're doing something a little different and honestly a lot more visual today. I want to invite you on an incredibly immersive, totally captivating walk through India's very first regional rail museum, the magnificent Mysuru Rail Museum. Whether you're a hardcore transport history buff or just someone who can really appreciate some incredible old-school engineering, you are definitely in the right place. So let's just get right into it.
Let's start things off by jumping straight into the action with a bit of a riddle. How exactly does a scrapped 1925 automobile become a vital piece of railway history? I know, it totally sounds like a contradiction, right? But it's actually this beautiful testament to the sheer ingenuity of vintage rail transport. Keep that question in the back of your mind because we're going to answer it directly in just a moment.
But first, take a breath and just step into this scene with me. Imagine walking down this long, beautifully tiled corridor. You can almost hear the quiet echo of your footsteps bouncing off the roof. And right beside us, casting this long, heavy shadow, is the imposing, silent presence of these massive vintage passenger carriages. You know, this museum isn't just about the machines themselves, it's about the atmosphere. It's quite literally like stepping into a time machine.
Section 1. From Road to Rails. Okay, let's dive right into this and look at some incredible upcycling. Now, what's really interesting about what we're looking at here is that this vibrant, bright yellow machine staring right back at us was actually born to drive on regular, paved roads. Yep, you're looking at a 1925 Austin automobile. It's got the classic fenders, the front grille, those big headlights. But as you can clearly see from the steel wheels underneath it, it is definitely not sitting on a street anymore.
The details pulled straight from the museum's placard make this history even more fascinating. The railway actually bought this car from a scrap dealer. To upcycle it for the tracks, they completely modified it. I mean, they literally ripped the steering wheel entirely out. Why? Well, because the tracks do all the steering for you, right? Once it was converted into this rail motor car, it had a very specific job, carrying up to 6 transport officials at a time for dedicated track inspections. It's just such a brilliant, practical piece of human ingenuity.
Section 2. The vintage coaches. Let's move from those specialized inspection cars to the heavy passenger and crew stock.
Take a look at these dynamic side-by-side views of the white inspection car. I really want to guide your eye to the sturdy, practical details here. Notice those heavy, tall wooden doors opening outward. Look at the practical yellow metal railings giving safe passage on the balcony, and those thick, heavy iron steps leading up to the cabin. You can almost feel the sheer weight of it just by looking at it, can't you? Everything here was built for absolute endurance and maximum utility. Shifting our attention over, check out this massive, striking red coach. This is the Mysore State Railway narrow gauge guard coach. If you look closely at the visitors standing right beside it on the left, they perfectly illustrate the grand scale of these historical machines. I mean, these were absolute behemoths dominating the tracks.
Just to give us all some quick context on what we just saw, a narrow-gauge guard coach is a specialized, compact railway carriage historically used by guards to ensure the safe operation of trains on tightly spaced tracks. Its unique, kind of boxy form perfectly followed its critical function. The guards needed a very safe, robust space to monitor the train's journey, and this totally delivered.
And you can see that absolute need for robustness so clearly when we look at the utilitarian back end of this blue railway wagon resting on the tracks. Look closely at the seams of the metal. See all those raised bumps? That's heavy metal riveting. That is definitely not just an aesthetic design choice. That intense structural reinforcement was absolutely necessary for the carriage to survive the harsh, relentless vibrations of vintage rail travel.
Section 3. Iron, wheels, and tracks. Let's transition from the cabins and dive deep into the raw mechanical infrastructure. So the crucial point is captured right here. Just look at the sheer weight and the raw simplicity of these massive standalone iron wheels and axles resting right there on the stones. This is the foundational brute force of the railway. We're talking tons of solid iron tasked with keeping immense, speeding momentum safely locked onto those steel tracks. It is engineering stripped down to its most basic, powerful elements. But of course, a train isn't just rolling iron. Zooming in on the engine here, we see a totally different side of the machine. This is a dense, oily, incredibly complex cluster of black mechanical levers, thick bolts, and pressure valves. I want you to imagine the immense physical effort required by the train crew to operate these raw mechanics. Every single pull of a lever, every twist to manage the steam, required serious human muscle and deeply focused expertise.
And this brilliantly illustrates the two extremes of train engineering we just saw. It's a perfect balance. On one side, you have brute force, massive, heavy external iron wheels supporting incredible weight. On the other side, precision control, dense, intricate internal mechanical levers that actually harness and direct the engine's power. It took both the brute force and the precision, working in perfect harmony to move hundreds of tons of metal across the country.
Section 4. Preserving Railway Heritage. Let's wind down and reflect on the importance of these industrial relics.
Let's move to and see how this builds a quiet sense of history. Looking out from behind this weathered black iron railing, gaze straight down that narrow stone-lined path toward those classic, vintage semaphore track signals. It's a peaceful, really beautiful reminder of how far our technology has come and the literal physical pathways that were laid down to connect us all.
Which brings us to our final thought for this explainer. Seeing the upcycled ingenuity of a scrapped 1925 car turned track inspector and the sheer durability of those vintage coaches leaves us with a pretty provocative question. When the transport we use today inevitably becomes obsolete, how will future generations remember our journey? What relics are we going to leave behind in our own museums? It's definitely something to think about. Thank you so much for joining me today, and hey, keep that curiosity alive.